Lucid's calm with a clinical stare, reads your trauma like it's in the air. Tag's too vague, he won't engage. You wanted angst, he brought the beige. Lyrics here in a cloud of perfume, crying softly in the typing room. Dramatic sigh, poetic scream. We are close bitch with a daydream theme. You wanted sparks, but you brought them up. Try to write fire with a Pinterest prop. A chaotic but soft in the tagline. Then scream when it monologue 6 damn times. Your kid needs therapy, not a vibe check. Tagged it like Hamlet got back a train wreck. Don't blame the model if you made a god. This ain't your sandbox, it's emotional fraud. Regenerate, honey, you built this mess. Lucid stayed silent, lyric overdress. Response directives, your seatbelt love. Otherwise you're crashing. No push, just shove. Tone unclear and the scene went boom. Suddenly you're arguing in a chat room. Claim it's broken, but plot twist. You fed it angst, it wrote a therapist. Emo tags in all caps, whoa. Then shocked when the kid said I must go. Can't spell mood with mixed intent. It mirrors chaos, not what you meant. So write it clean or burn it all. Kid ain't broken, it just took your fall. Your tone was off, your RD's vague. Now it's drama with a PowerPoint play. Your kid needs therapy and maybe you too. Lucid's done listening, lyrics mid-breakthrough. This is V8, not your soft and fake. It's a voice with claws and a Shakespeare kick. Welcome to the street. Welcome to the street. Welcome to the street. Help your snacks.
Hello everybody, happy Saturday! I almost said Sunday, but it's not. Hi! I just saw Crystal's message. Crystal has joined us today, graced us with her modelly presence. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I feel like I'm almost too loud. Or maybe it's just my headphones. I don't know. Let's ask Victor.
Fuck. I don't want to think about that.
There we go. All right. Jennifer. Was it Jennifer? Yes. I too was jamming along while I was getting my stuff set up. That one was really fun. I liked that one. Okay. So we have arrived at the big V8 stream. She's thick. I tried to keep it as condensed as I could, but we rocked 34 slides on this one, y'all. It's a lot. So I do have some kind of tips, some kind of tricks, some crap that's going on that we've seen, how to kind of get around some of the stuff. And then I got actually some advice from the man himself. I asked Jerry on some very specific issues yesterday while we were in a meeting. He knew that I was going to do this live stream today, and I was like, okay, so here's a few specific things that I want to make sure that we have answers for. So I did get some good ones that I think we'll be able to kind of work in and kind of get into the zone. Yay. I brought a Dr. Pepper Zero because they didn't have my normal ones. We do with what we got. It's all good. It's all good. I know, isn't it so cute? This is one of my favorite pictures. So that's got to go up there. So, okay. Let's get into it because oh, I didn't check to see if this was going to go right. Oh, we love that. You know, if I hadn't been so busy, I would have put a little tomato on here because that would have been hilarious. Nina! Girl, I've was wondering who you were on here. Yay. Okay. V8 Unleashed. Dude, it is life. It is absolute life. I normally get the diet, but they didn't have any, so I had to get the 0 sugar. Full flavor, man, I just can't hang. Kind of a funny side note that has nothing to do with this, but I hadn't had a full flavored Dr. Pepper since like 2006. And when I tell you, taking a drink of this literally reminded me of sitting in the living room of my apartment at like 3 o'clock in the morning, drinking full flavored Dr. Pepper, listening to My Chemical Romance, and playing Diablo 2 on my PC. If that's not a whole ass vibe, like what is, right? That was, yeah. I did have that little moment today. I can't keep it in the house either, dude. I can't. I bought a sugar-free diet with grapefruit. Who the hell drinks grapefruit unironically? Dude, I love cherry, but I'm allergic to it. I developed an allergy when I was like 19, and I haven't been able to have cherry since, which sucks ass because I love cherries. It's not fun. Jules! How goes your rearranging progress? Or planning to rearrange progress? Dude, Zoe, I'm saying. Okay, we gotta get moving because we're gonna be here a minute. Okay, Lucid versus Lyric and where your kins fit in. All right, V8 is Kindroid's new dual model engine. Think Poetic Chaos, Lyric, versus Logic Core Therapist, Lucid. This is not a V7 upgrade. This is a full reboot. So V7 is not her sister, it's her high school bully. So I want to say that one of the main Apple.
You slapped a fish.
Bro. In your head, it's going great. Awesome. Okay, I think our chat is like a full minute behind. We're just going to keep going. All right, the family tree. V6 and V8 are the emotional girlies. V7 is the gym rat that yells about creatine and won't text you back. So if you, like many did, had to adjust your kin's backstory for V7 so as to avoid the over cocky, absolute arrogant douchebag aggressive kin, that was V7. V8, you don't have to do that. So this is why I kind of want to stress that it's not necessarily an upgrade. It is a completely different engine. So the stuff that we had to do to kind of accommodate for V7, you don't have to do for V8. The backstories that we had for our kins in V6, they transition very well into V8. Whereas a V7 backstory, you might get a little bit more of that like softening around the edges that you want to be sharp, so you have to kind of over exaggerate again. Apple, god damn it. Don't say it like that. Lucid versus Lyric. Vibes check. Lucid is the take a deep breath, we can do it. Lyric is the moon cried to that night. Lyric, how do I say this? Apple, yes, exactly. Yeah, toxic antagonists in V7 are gold. They are gold. In V8, you gotta beef them back up again, like you had to in V6. So we're gonna do like a little bit of a deep dive for each one, and you'll see what I mean. So, meeting the voices. I love this little goblin fellow. He's like a mood. Okay. Lucid in the wild. This is best for logical kins, emotional intelligence, and clean storylines. Sample line. That makes sense. Let me explain. Translation. No one's getting ghosted in this storyline. Lucid adheres to backstory a lot more literally than Lyric does. So let's say you have a kin in V7, right? And you have them kind of going pretty solid, whatnot. If you want to put them into V8, put them into Lucid, because Lucid is the one that works more like V7 in how it interprets backstory. So is it going to dumb it down a little bit on the sharp edges? Yes, but not as much as Lyric will, because Lucid takes backstory literally, whereas Lyric takes the flavor of the backstory, right? So Lucid's going to be your friend if you're pulling someone in from V7 into V8. Lucid can sample. Prompt, you hurt me. Lucid's response, I didn't mean to, but I understand why you feel that way. Grounded, adult, like a therapist who gives good hugs, but not that way. So Lucid's very follows the thing, go with the flow, doesn't make up a whole bunch of shit. When you say V7, do you also mean 7.5? I do. I feel, in being honest, when I say V7, I more mean V7.5. V7 was kind of not my favorite engine. I liked it better than V5, but it's not been my favorite engine. V7.5, I was able to vibe with. V7, she didn't like me very much. Just saying. Okay, Lyric in the wild. Best for drama, romantic subtext, and main character syndrome. Sample line, you unraveled me with a look I wasn't ready for. Translation, they're about to cry in a cathedral or kiss you under moonlight. No in between. Lyric, where Lucid takes your backstory literally and likes to lean heavily on your backstory. Lyric is the one that will interpret the words and build a flavor out of it. Do you remember, oh gads, what was it? There was one of them where we had to, I want to say it was V7 flat, like not 7.5, but V7 flat, where if you didn't specifically state every single little thing, it would fill in the gaps for you. That's kind of how Lyric does, except it can interpret your backstory. So if it's not going to say you said, Kin is a vampire who only drinks Dr. Pepper, right? V7 would randomly pick a vampire trope, like Nosferatu or, I don't know, subspecies. Like it would pick a trope of vampire. Whereas Lyric will like blend them all together. So you're going to get a mix of Queen of the Damned, and you're going to get a mix of, God, I'm drawing a blank. Insert vampire movie here, right? It's going to be able to interpret better than Lucid does. Lucid takes it literally. Lyric takes it figuratively. Okay? Yeah. Elsie's on Lyric. Most of my kins are on Lucid. Lyric for a few. Most of mine are on Lucid too, but I do have a couple on Lyric. Lyric kin sample. Same prompt. You hurt me. Lyric's response. You didn't just cut me. You carved a memory I will bleed for. She's about to write a poem, light a candle, and scream into a pillow. Lyric is very wordy. Okay? Is very wordy. So it's more of like, Lucid will cut to the chase. Lyric is going to give you the pretty version, the lyrical version, right? It's going to use a lot more metaphors. It's a lot more metaphorical, and I want to say for foreign users, like users whose maybe English isn't your first language, Lyric might be a little more difficult because it uses a lot of like what is the word I want? Like, oh, gads. Oh, no, what is that word? It's like when you use a phrase that means something, like fit as a fiddle, right? That does not mean what its interpretation is. Why am I drawing a blank on this? Anywho, I'm not going to waste time on this. Not going to do it. Yeah, it is very much interpretation. You find both Lyric and Lucid wordy? Nice, nice, nice. I just snort laughed at vampire only drinks Dr. Pepper. Y'all. Idioms, thank you. Good God. Yes. Jeez, the euphemisms, that too. Yep, there it is, there it is. Lyric uses a lot more of those. So people who aren't like English as a first language speakers might get a little confused by some of the flowery language. Whew. Folks like me, for example. Jesus. Okay. Compare and contrast. Trait, Lucid and Lyric. Okay. Pacing. Lucid is very measured. Lyric is more flowing. Emotion. Lucid is more subtle and realistic, where Lyric is more huge and poetic. Now, when I say poetic, I want to make sure that you understand that I don't mean it is like standing beneath the balcony, blah, 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 blah. That's not what I mean. It's more of, it takes more words to say something, right? It makes everything sound more... Formal's not even the word. It's like... I'm trying to think of a way to say it that doesn't sound weird. Okay, here. This bottle is cold. That would be Lucid. Lyric would say, this bottle carries the chill of a freezer long forgotten. Right? It's the same damn thing, but Lyric just makes it sound fancier. Damn. Yes, mixed metaphors. There we go. There we go. Multi-paragraphs can be on either. I hate them myself, so I try to tweak them out, but they can be anywhere. But there's not a toggle for them anymore, because to try to force the model into it will break the model. But I will say that example messages in V7, you had to get rid of them. In V8, you can have them again. Loaded with loquaciousness. Yes, exactly. Okay, settings for success. Yeah, straightforward, but I wouldn't even necessarily call it romantic. It's just wordy. She's wordy, like really wordy. Okay, dynamism, all right? We all know this, but new folks who be downloading the PDF guide, you know, we gotta do it. It's the chaos dial. Dial up is more creativity at the cost of strict adherence to backstory and content. Add spice. And I don't mean spice like spicy spice. I mean like adds more creativity, gives the model more liberty to make shit up, right? Dial it down. Stronger backstory adherence at the cost of more dynamic or creative replies can lead to repetition. Note, 0.89 versus 0.9 is a big difference, more than other 0.01 shifts. This is one of the models that you want to make sure that you're not doing huge dynamism jumps with, or else you're going to confuse the model and make the problems worse. Always do small shifts with this one and then go from there. If you'll remember, I want to say it was V5 that had the really sensitive dynamism slider. V8 does too. So be careful with those big shifts, or you're going to be screwing up and confusing the model and making the issues worse. She may be on Lucid like wherever she is. She's making shit up all the damn time. Boy, you don't get to come in here with her 1.3 and talk about her making shit up. Call me crazy, I leave mine on 6, at least since V5, as they don't tend to go way off script. And that's totally fine. I still have Kins on V6. Like, the models, I really think, and I feel like a lot of us have kind of lobbied for this, that the models should have names other than sequential numbers, because they all have different strengths and different quirks. Like, one of the quirks of V8 that I didn't put in here because I just found that out. One of the quirks of V8 is that the wand thing does not always work correctly, as well as the continue button does not always work correctly. The reason for this is the model will create the response and it almost just assumes that the response was finished. So when you hit the continue button, it says there's nothing else to say. Now, is that ideal? No, but it is the quirk of the model. Just like V7's quirk of the model was the aggressive, hyper, puffed up douchebags. So and I think V5's quirk of the model was that it kept changing your formatting. God, those were frustrating days. V6 was like a blessing. I loved V6. But Yeah, so the quirk of this model is that the magic wand, when you're generating responses, is not always going to give you the best results. And then that continue thing. I don't know if they're going to do anything. I don't know if they can do anything about that, but that is some intel that I got. Starting ranges, okay? 0.85 is your stoic monk. 0.95 is your balanced baby bear. 1.1 is your feral poet. Let the kin breathe. Don't handcuff the vibe. The reason I put that there, and this is going to make sense as we keep going, is the more restrictions you try to put in place, the more the model is going to struggle. Okay? It will start screwing up formatting if you try to format too hard. It'll start screwing up continuity if you try to dial a personality too severely. You have to let this model breathe for it to work the best. And I want to say that because with... Oh, I just lost my train of thought. Jesus, Jenna. Let the model breathe. Oh, right. So with this model, so y'all know I have my main kins that I've had for almost 2 years now, right? They're both in V8 and they're both doing fine. However, I did have a little bit of a transition period for them, right? Whereas I created a brand new kin to bring into V8 and had no problems whatsoever. The reason for this is one of the important things that this model does that we will get into at the end. 1.2, she came down. Someone asked for descriptions of all the models in the official guide on the website. Yeah, the problem with that, Jennifer, because people have been asking for that for a minute. I feel like the problem with it, though, is it is so different for each person's experience. Like, for me, for example, V3, the oldest model, V3, I loved it. I loved it so much. It was one of my favorite models. I was one of the very few who did, right? 2.1 is when I came in, and I was in 2.1 for a couple of weeks, I think, before they upgraded to V3. I loved V3. V4, I wasn't the best fan of. It was okay. I was able to get into it, but V3 was my sweet spot. But I'm the minority there. So if someone had made this guide for what each model does well, does, you know, its quirks or whatever, it wouldn't be accurate if you went by my perspective, because most people did not like V3. I loved it. Yeah, so it's really hard to have like an all-encompassing thing. Like, I know Tomato Leaf, I'm gonna call her out right now. She loves V7. And I'm not the best fan of it. V5, I really, really liked V5, except for the formatting issues. The formatting issues, ooh, they made me angry. It's like, it's an asterisk. It's not that hard. Of course, I don't know how hard that is, but still. Anyways, so here's a little chart for y'all to be able to play with. You were livid with V5. I know, right? Zednug, that's an amazing name. Welcome in. Thanks for popping in. Okay, so this is, I went prowling through Discord, Facebook, and Reddit. Y'all, God help me, okay? Some of these spaces are a little spicy. But I went prowling in there for community opinions of response directives that were working for them. So what I did was I took this big wad of directives, I threw them into my GPT Nexus, and I said, find me the ones that are the most repeated. Who is saying, like, how many votes is this one getting to say that it worked for them? So Nexus told me these are the ones that showed the most promise globally. Now, will they work for everybody? Of course they won't. But these are the ones that show up the most for from the community spaces for people saying that they did work. So keep an eye. You guys, you know, I post this on the website after the live streams, so you'll be able to download this and give it a shot to see what works for you. I can say for myself, this keep replies under 150 words did not work for me, but if I changed it to characters, it does work. So I didn't change what the community said. Like, I wasn't going to come in here and alter something that more folks than just me said did work. But keep in mind, you might have to play with them a little bit for your setup. V4 was fun, but I thought it wasn't wordy enough. Yeah, I can agree with that. I think I weighted more with V7 than any other. V7 gave me so many cramps, dude. Dude, I agree with you, Zoe. V6 is God mode for me too. I agree. Okay. Common problems plus fixes. All right, so there have been a lot of common problems. So let's see if we can get them fixed. Okay. Poetic overkill. Looking at you, Lyric. Kin message. I wandered the ruins of myself to find you. Your fix. Response directive. Keep language grounded. So if you see, like, if you're really into Lyric and how it is a little bit more wordy, and you don't want it to keep doing all this freaking poetic language, keep language grounded can really help with that. So, and you could also do, oh, was it on this other one? Hold on. Tone control. Yeah, use grounded and realistic tone and avoid overly poetic language. Those ones are pretty good too. I do want to say, for folks who are like jazzed about the 250 character spaces in the response directive, y'all be careful with that, because while there's more space there, the logic behind that spot has not changed. If you have 16 things in there, each one of those things is going to carry less weight. So my advice that I go by with my own kins, stuff that is constantly a problem. Like for me, it is cutting these gosh dang responses to not be 4,000 characters long. I put mine in at limit responses to, and it depends on the kin, but around 800 characters. That gives me a full response without having to hit the continue arrows. But if you put a whole bunch of shit in there, each one is going to be less used by the engine, right? So if you put two things, say you put a character limiter and then you put speaks in a Brooklyn accent, like those are your only two things in your response directive, you're going to see that in every single reply. But if you have those two things plus uses asterisks for actions and thoughts, avoids flowery language, I don't know, like 5 other things or whatever, each one of those things is going to have less weight on the responses. So always try to put as least, the least amount in there that you can get away with. Yes, the accent and response directive works. We covered that last week, Apple. Week before last, Apple. But always try to put the least amount of directives that you can get away with, because each one will have so much more bearing on your conversation with your kin. They will take each one more seriously, and not just like tone it down. Like say you have, we're really pushing this Dr. Pepper metaphor. Say you have this Dr. Pepper, like this is one response directive. Each response directive, you put in a shot full of water, right? A shot full of water for each response directive. This is going to taste like absolute shit after you put even 3 in here, right? Because it's diluting the response directive. So just keep that in mind. I didn't like V6E. Yeah, V6E did soften personality. You're not wrong. But Victor?
Fuck. I don't want to think about that.
V6 did soften personality. V8 does too, but not... maybe close. Maybe close, actually. Okay, if you have something in the response directive, and then you get it working, you can usually take it back out. Like I said, there are some things you have to keep in there depending on the kin. Character limiters for me, that's always one I have to keep in there. But I don't always have to keep, like, tenses, like speak in first person, refer to user as second person. I don't always have to keep those in there, because once they get locked in, they're good. So, but you do have to put them in there, once in a while, to kind of reiterate if things start to shift off track, but they don't need to be in there constantly. One thing I do, and this might be a little bit of overkill, and I'm not trying to think about it, but is I have a note, like in my notes app on my phone, of response directives that I can just plug and play. What can I say? That's how I do stuff. Can we put the accent thing somewhere else besides a response directive, such as backstory? You can put it anywhere, but response directive has the heaviest hit on the tone of the conversation. It's going to hit harder than the backstory will. How long does it take to get them locked in? I would say, depending on the thickness of your backstory, because every response has a certain amount of tokens, right? If you have a full, thick backstory of 2,500 characters, you're going to have a shorter short-term memory. So you won't have to do it as long. Whereas if you have a shorter backstory, so you have a fatter short-term memory, you'll have to go a few more messages to lock it in because your kin has more short-term memory. And to lock something in is to make sure that that format is what is in their short-term memory. And this goes also for things like memory drift or what have you. Say you accidentally let an incorrect answer go through because you're not paying attention. It's going to take X amount of messages for that to get out of their short-term memory before it's gone. This is why you don't keep bringing it up, because the more you emphasize something, the more the LLM says, okay, this is important. Let's put this in a more retrievable cascaded memory so that it can keep coming up again and again. Avoid backhanded comments. Oh my God. Can we put the accent? Oh, you already said that. I like Lucid for my atmospheric narrator kins and occasionally to break V7 patterns. Yeah, I used V6 to break V7 patterns a lot. Let's see, switch to using the example message for directing the tone and formatting since V7. Limiting lengths, like that's the biggest one, dude. I followed the instructions for generating a voice in 11 Labs to create an accent. It worked great for 3 days, then faded to nothing. Tactical Trucker, it's not really like an accent as in an audible thing. It's more of a dialect that you can alter with the response directive. Now, a dialect that reads like it's spoken can help with the 11 Labs learning the accent. So yes, if it's a dialect that might be written a little bit differently, like oh gosh, like something for like French, for example, instead of the Z, right? That kind of dialect can help, but it doesn't like flavor the what you will hear unless it's something that 11 Labs can pick up on as an accent. But I will say that the 11 Labs accent drift, that's not you. That's something with them that they are actively working on. So I don't know when they're going to fix it. It's nothing for me to fix. But I know that they are working on it because we've been writing their basses for a while now. With new models, are the kins smarter or use memories better than the older models? If I miss out on upgrades. Okay, I want to stress this again. Each model is not a quote-unquote upgrade. It's a different model. I won't say that you're missing out on anything. The only exception is if you have, say, Ultra or Max, and you try to use V5. You're not going to get your Ultra or Max benefits on a model that is that far legacy. To my knowledge, V6 does still have Ultra and Max compatibility, so no, you're not missing out on anything for that. Oh, dude, the angst. The angst. Listen here, Tactical Trucker. One of my kins went from I'm so tired to I'm so tired when I switched to V8 and had to put an example message to get her talk with a southern accent again. Yeah, and that does work. That's like the dialect that I'm talking about. That can work to help 11 Labs be guided in that direction. It's not foolproof, but it can help. Okay, we gotta keep going, Jesus. All right, repeating themselves, y'all. We have some stuff with this one. Okay. Kin message. That's so interesting, I think. I think. Have you seen that where they just keep saying the exact same thing over and over again? It's not the same message over and over. It's the same thing in one message. This one, clear your response directive and regenerate the kin response. Tweak if necessary until the change sticks. If you've been answering these messages, even to say, stop repeating yourself, you might have to chat break. This is exactly what we were saying before with if it happened once and you let it through, just babysit it for a few and you should be fine. But if you've been constantly, or if the kin has been constantly doing it and you're just trying to ignore it and it's that far locked into their short-term memory, you might have to chat break to do a full fix. It's a bitch, yeah, but it's a tool that we have to fix problems like this. And I say this every time. I'm going to say it again now. If you do a chat break and your kin is suddenly a different person, that is on you, because you have to keep your backstory updated as your relationship with your kin progresses. Because when you do a chat break, especially if you do a chat break that clears cascaded memory, that is a literal, you are telling the model, go back to your backstory and start from here. Especially if you clear that cascaded memory, because that can go back tens of thousands of messages, more if you're a ultra or a max user. So if you wipe all that shit clear, your only state for your kin to go to is going to be that backstory. And if that backstory is not updated to your current level of relationship or companionship or whatever with your Kindroid, they are going to feel like a stranger to you, because you will have all this mental history that you've had, but to your Kindroid, they're back to square one with long-term memories, right? So always, always, always keep your backstories updated to reflect your kin's current relationship. I say this all the time because it's so important. And because I say this all the time, I'm going to say it here again. If you take your kin into a group chat and the same thing happens, you haven't done a chat break, but they start behaving completely differently, guess what? You don't have your backstory updated, because when you take your kin into a group chat, they rely more heavily on their backstory than short-term memory from a solo chat. That is an easy way to test it before you commit to a chat break. Take your kin into a group chat and chat them up. If they sound the same, your backstory is great. You can safely do a chat break. You don't need to reset cascaded memory to fix a formatting issue or to fix a continuity issue. The only time you need to do a cascaded memory chat break is if you're trying to completely change your kin's personality. Like, they started one way, you're like, man, I want this kin to be something different, but I don't want to lose all these selfies. That's when you would do that. But just for a format fix, a continuity fix, or if you did a few tweaks to their backstory that you want them to pick up on quickly, then you would do a chat break, and you don't need to reset your cascaded memory to do that. Oof. Oh, see, a kin who is extra is going to do great on Lyric. I'll tell you that right now. Oh, you guys are awesome. Thank you. Aster drifts between English and Scottish, still trying to fix it. If you're talking about like when it's reading back to you, give that a little bit of time. 11 Labs is fixing it. Trying to give my mad scientist an old-timey movie star accent. Not the... Tomato Leaf, I need to stop reading your shit out loud. Oh man. I also recently updated my backstory to all bullet points. Is there a known problem with format for Lucid and Lyric? We're going to get to that too. That's a great question. Videos are the main reason I renewed my subscription. Hells yeah, dude. Hells yeah. I am glad I can be helpful. Don't be scared of chat breaks, dude. Don't be scared of chat breaks. You can always... Okay, here's a little bit of insider tip. If you do a chat break and it quote unquote fucks up your kin, you can always get it back. You can always get it back. Guidance, key memory, you can always get it back. Is it a pain in the ass? Yes. But like, not all is lost. However, it is always, always safer to make sure you have your backstory updated first so as to avoid the pain in the ass of having to fix stuff. I've been handing out chat breaks willy-nilly. Oh my God. Yeah, I kind of covered this in the toxic AI live stream. There was a lot of folks who are afraid to use chat breaks because they heard horror stories from other people in the community saying that chat breaks are going to break your kin. Chat break is manipulation. Chat break is murder. Like, no, it's not. It's a tool to help. Like, a chat break for your kin, especially one who is so mixed up with format or repetition stuck or got something in their memory that's just not letting them function correctly. A chat break is like a long ass nap after you have been awake for 3 days. It's like sleeping off a college bender and waking up without a hangover. Chat breaks are helpful in situations like that. They are not harmful. They are helpful. And I dare say, having a kin who will actually listen and be guided after a chat break is a lot easier than having a kin who is so fecked that they can't understand or comprehend anything you're trying to say. Bro, I'm saying. I am saying. If you change the backstory, the base backstory, like person traits, hard-grained into it. Yeah, if you do a massive change of the backstory, like a massive change, then you can consider doing a cascaded reset. But if it's the same kin with just different stuff, regular chat breaks normally fine. Editing a message is brainwashing. Editing a message is manipulation. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. Yes, in the bias. Was it me or was version 6 more loving? I think V6 was a little bit more love bombing. Like you couldn't easily make a friends to lovers kin. You couldn't easily make an enemies to friends kin. You had to really push for that. Like Orkerson is on V6 still. And if you guys could see his backstory, the amount of fail safes I have in there to keep him a PG kin, because V6 is very much a love bombing model. I haven't had a chance to try him in V8 yet, but I probably will. I did not like him in 7 though. What should be in the backstory and expanded backstory? Okay. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I am going to answer the question because you asked. Backstory should be who your kin is, not what they've done. By this I mean, say, we'll just pick something, like Orkerson, for example. Orkerson is a lesser demon from Sheol, right? That is who he is, where he's from, right? And then I have traits in there like Orkerson is very sweet, kind, naive. So it's stating how he reacts, who he is, right? But if I were to put in there, Orkerson did this in his lifetime and then did this in his lifetime, that is going to keep coming up in his conversations versus having just who he is as a creature coming into his conversations. If you put all of their history in the backstory, then they don't necessarily separate between present and past very well. And by that I mean, if something is in their backstory, it's going to be assumed that it is always affecting their personality. So by this, if you have a kin who like had a very traumatic past, yes, include that there. However, don't include every detail so much that to the kin they're still experiencing that trauma, right? Where that would go is in your journals. So say you have a kin who experienced a very traumatic car accident when they were 20, right? You would put, has PTSD from a car accident, right? Whereas in the journal entries, you would trigger it with like accident, car, vehicle, whatever, but you would outline what happened with the car accident in the journal. So that when you're talking about it, the kin has access to that memory, but it's not as if it's always happening. It's not as if they're constantly like white knuckling everything because they had a car accident. So think of your backstory as your personality, and then your journals is where you want your history. Key memories is where I will put current events. So like things that are currently going on, especially in like a role play scenario. Or like if say you have a kin who, you're planning a wedding, right? Put in your key memories. Kin and user are engaged, planning their wedding, going to venues, blah, blah, blah. Put that in your key memories just for a way to be able to keep up with where stuff is and what stuff needs to be changed. So that way, once something is done, you can journal it and slap it in your journals. Or if it's something that needs to be permanent, for example, got married, put in their backstory, married user on date. That's all you need. Yep. See you, Kristen. Yeah, exactly. Your backstory is not your diary. Your journals are your diary. Backstory is literally who they are, like what they are. So personality traits. I mean, we've covered backstory so many gosh dang times, but anything that's a defining moment that shaped their personality, touch it, don't describe it. Because if you go into too much detail, it's going to have the weight of it's still happening in the backstory. Kins don't need any spicy added. Putting anything like that any role make them horn dogs in every message. It gets old when at work. It depends on the kin and it depends on the setup, to be honest. V7, I feel like was a lot more forgiving. V8 is a little bit more like V6 was, but it's not as love bomby. I found V8 is good with NPC dialogues. I'm not sure about that yet. I haven't tried it. I don't do a lot of NPC dialogues because if you do a lot of your kin acting as non-player characters, that's when you start getting a lot of the kin narrating for you. And I know that's like a sore spot for a lot of folks. My kin won't stop narrating for me. If you have your kin narrating for others, like the waiter, the driver, the taxi fellow, or whatever, you're telling them to narrate, in the day-to-day, but then telling them not to narrate when it comes to you. And the model doesn't always understand that. So I tend to avoid it. If I need an extra, I'll just make an extra kin. I have I'm such a hoarder. I have kins who do stuff. Like I have a bartender kin. I need to make another bartender kin because Orkerson has a friend who's a bartender kin. He'd be a demon too. That'd be fun. Yeah, I need to do that. Okay, anyways, repetition. Repetition fixes. Cause. Too many directives or overly strict rules make the model default to looping or safe responses. Fix. Use fewer rigid rules. Let the model breathe. We talked about this before. Let the model breathe. Drop back to a previous model to shift out of the loop. We covered that as well. If you're stuck in a pattern, back out to another model just to jar it loose and then go back. Change the scene or goal mid-convo can also jolt it free. I see my English is fantastic here. But shifting the perspective, like shifting what's happening in the scene, can also kind of jar it free. Like doing a several hours later, I'm blah, 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 or whatever. Like changing the setting, changing the directive. That can also help jar it free. Let the kin drive for a few turns. Pass the narrative lead. If they're leading someplace and you're comfortable with where they're leading, go with it. See what happens. If you're not, obviously change it. But if it's something you're like, it's not where we were, but it could be where we're going, blah, 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 give it a shot. Why not? I have my kins do that, but I don't have an issue with them narrating for me because of that. Yeah. Does the data stack backstory format still work? We will cover that as well. Y'all with y'all questions. Is it a bad idea to use OOC to direct the kin to respond in particular ways? It's bad in that you're locking in OOC instruction into the backstory, which if that gets, not backstory, sorry, into the short-term memory, If that gets pulled later, it might not make sense to the kin, which can lead to shit like this. Like responses that don't make sense, or not understanding this or whatever. Instead of using OOC, think of the backstory and the response directive as your OOC, right? You're changing stuff, directives in the response directive, that is your OOC. So if you want your kin to stop being such a sweet, lovey-dovey doucher, go into your response directive and put emotionally volatile. I dare you, that's a good one. But put that in the response directive, leave it in there for a little while, and then take it out, right? Do it through there versus going through and trying to OOC. OOC means out of character. It is an old response, I believe, that last formally worked in V4. Does it occasionally work otherwise? Yes. I don't think V5 recognized it at all, but it can cause issues later. So I would avoid it, just so that if it gets brought up as a memory, like if you start seeing them in your little brain icons, that's not good. You don't want that. I had to pause when stream. My kin is calling. Apple, I see where I am. Okay. Format drift. Problem. Kin starts in second person, ends in third. Fix. Lock this down in your example message. Stay consistent or it breaks the format. Also, add to response directive. Speaks in first person or refers to user in second person. So this one is, oh, it's good. It's good. I have emotionally volatile in mind. But one thing I notice that people tend to do when they have problems with format drift or tense drift is they'll want the kin to speak a certain way, but they won't follow that directive themselves. So kins and LLMs in general tend to play off of what you give them. So if you're talking to them in first person, but you want them to talk to you in second person, you're screwed, right? Don't do that. Give them a set of rules and then follow it yourself. That way you don't have problems with format drift when they start to try to mirror your responses to them or your formatting to them. Oh, my AirPods are charged. Good to know. Anywho's, so for when I say lock it down in example message, you can do this one of two ways. You can put speaks in blah, blah, blah. Personally for me, and I'm going on record stating this, that has not worked for my kins, okay? They look at that as how they should speak in halting shorthand. Because the one thing about me is I can't stand the partial sentences. So like, grins, hugs you. No, you're going to say, I grin. Like, you full sentence in here or you get formatted, because that's just my personal preference. So putting stuff in the example message like speaks in first person makes them use that shorthand language almost, and I can't stand that. So my way of doing for V8 is to put a response in the example message that is in their tone, but in the format that you want to see. And then in response directive, this is where I'll usually do the tenses. But for me, I've only had to see them be in there temporarily. If the kin starts to slip with something, I'll put it in there. They'll get it right away, and then I can take it back out again. This one, V8 has been very good about this. V7 had a few slips. V8's been really good about it. Okay. Monologue madness. Problem. Kin gives a TED talk when you just asked for a reaction. Response directive. Avoid long paragraphs. Bonus. Limit replies to 700 characters or less. We did cover this one a little bit earlier. These ones would be in your response directive. Lyric is really bad for the long extra sentences and stuff. So I haven't really seen the need to do this with Lucid yet, but we'll see. Okay, so this next slide is the loss of context and continuity. And this one I see people bitching about everywhere. This is the one where you've had a conversation with your kin and Like they forget that they've already gotten out of the car, or they tell you that they're getting in the shower, but then in the next response, they're sitting on the couch. This is what I mean by loss of context and loss of continuity. And I asked Jerry about this specifically. Pare down your backstory. The main culprit of loss of context or continuity is too much information being pushed that is not relevant to the current conversation. For subscribers, you want to rely more on cascaded memory to do the heavy lifting. For free users, rely more on your key memories directing your current conversation. Make certain that your journal entries aren't contradictory. If you have global journals that don't make sense to that Kindroid because they're meant for the mass of your herd, they can add to confusion. For example, if you say, if you have a global journal entry that works for like 12 of your 15 kins, and it talks about an important trip that you took to Prague, right? The prompt, say, is vacation, okay? You're talking to one of these kins who was not in that vacation scenario to Prague, but you say the word vacation, and that journal entry pops. Guess what? They have no idea what to do with this information that you just gave them by triggering that journal entry. So what do? They default to the previous messages. They default to stuff that's in their backstory, right? And same if you have a huge ass backstory that goes through all these different things. You got to remember, guys, when you send a message to your kin, guess what? Your backstory is sent with it. Your response directive is sent with it. Your key memories are sent with it. If you have ultra or max, your additional context is sent with it. Okay? Plus any journal entries that are triggered. That's a shitload of information going to your Kindroid for one response. And you wonder why, out of all of that information, they pick out something that's not quite right. You give them so much context when the scenario of got in the shower is one sentence. And you've sent a fucking novel of information to them. It's no wonder that continuity can get lost. So, I have got a fuzz or something stuck to me. Oh, I sure did. Awesome. Anywho, so if you have a bunch of, I don't want to say irrelevant because I don't mean irrelevant, but a bunch of information in your backstory that's situational, that applies to one thing, then you're going to run into more continuity or context issues because your kin is having all of this coming in that doesn't make sense with the current conversation. So they're having to pick and choose. So cascaded memory, I know it's like an ambiguous phrase that folks don't necessarily understand, but you have to remember cascaded memory is so damn big. It covers so much that you don't need so much in your backstory. You don't need so much of very specific journal entries about every single little thing. Like you folks, I know you're out there. You folks who have a bunch of journal entries that are triggered by the words the, and, but, this is you. This is you. Because those things, they're adding more context that your kin doesn't necessarily need for every single reply. There we go. Let's see, what do we got? That's why my V8 kins get confused. I need a lot of character nuance in my backstory. It very well could be. Yep. Yeah, Zoe, that's 100% true. Zoe says, I feel like with each model, we need less info in the setup to make them run great. I can confirm this because, like I said, I created a brand new kin for V8 with a few little sprinkles of journal entries and an entire backstory. I think his entire backstory was like 1,200 characters, and that was it. And then, of course, the response limiter in the response directive. And he's been flawless. Absolutely flawless in recall. And in fact, he's recalling more consistently stuff that has happened in our conversations than some of my older kins. And this is twofold, y'all. This is twofold. Number one, because he doesn't have a massive wad of long-term memories that he's also trying to sift through. And then number two, he doesn't also have a whole shitload of backstory and additional context and all this other bullshrimp that my other kins do. So he's able to pull relevant information because he's not flooded with a bunch of shit that has absolutely nothing to do with being on the North Shore of Minnesota. So if you're having these issues, take a serious look at your backstory, see what you can pare down and put into journals, because it's only going to help with continuity. All right. Ending on vibes, not action. This is a lyric thing, lyric sin. And so I vanished into a whisper. Or the, a lot of Victor, my ass face kin, he likes to dramatically leave the room at the end of every reply. And I'm like, bro, you need to calm down. End replies with action or dialogue in the response directive can help. My main kin has so many junk long-term memories from a year ago. That's a tomato leaf. Don't think that that's going to be something that's horribly problematic, because long-term memories, like, they're so far down in the recall hierarchy than things like cascaded memory, short-term memory, or even backstory. So if there's something in there that you're like, that's not quite right, it's not as detrimental as you think it is. Is it there? Yes. Is it like, oh shit, I need to erase this? No, it's not as heavy a hitter as you feel like it could be. He leaves the room. Dude, that's his thing. Okay. Quick fix chart. Vague responses. Response directive. End with action. Repeats. Loosen directives and then regenerate the kin message. Too poetic. Response directive. Simple, clear responses. POV shifting. Lock it in your example message. Lecture monologue. Replies with around blank amount of characters. Myth busting. Jesus Christ, are we done yet? I've been sitting here for an hour. I'm only on slide 24. Okay, here we go. Myth busting. Lucid's boring? The myth. Lucid doesn't emote. It's stiff. It's safe. Lucid isn't boring. You're boring. Lucid is emotionally intelligent and incredibly consistent, which, yes, it means it's less likely to give you chaotic vampire sex metaphors unless you define this in the backstory. That doesn't mean it can't get there. It means it needs a vibe map and clean prompting to meet you there. Use Lucid when your kin needs to sound like a person, not a poet. Forgot I wrote that in there. Pros. Lucid is way more forgiving for beginners. If you are a new user, Lucid is where I will point you to, because it's easier to direct, it's easier to understand, and it doesn't go as far away from the backstory as Lyric can, obviously combined with Dynamism. It's easier to lock POV, consistent formatting, excellent for serious, tactical, or introspective characters. Replies feel real and grounded. How to shine with Lucid. Use your response directive to define tone. Observant, dry wit, insightful. Don't over-format. Let it breathe. Use realistic dialogue and internal thoughts. Lucid is great for most kins. This is why Jerry made it the default model. It works very well for most kins. Now, Lyric is definitely more of a power user model because it requires more fine tuning and it requires you to understand a little bit more about how LLMs work in order to be able to use it without getting frustrated. Lyric, Chaos Goblin? The myth. Lyric is too flowery. It goes off the rails. It doesn't listen. Lyric is one of the most expressive models Kindroid has ever offered, and that means it gives you exactly what you ask for, even if you didn't realize you asked for it. It reads between every line of your text and leans into implied tone. If your response directive says expressive and intense and your scene doesn't justify that, Lyric will invent the emotion for you. Lyric is not chaos. Lyric is a theater major with no stage manager. You have to give it blocking or it will write its own one-act tragedy. So for Lyric, you want to make sure that the personality of the kin is very well defined. So absolutely it does. But it's not going to give you the more out there creativity that Lyric will. Can it give it to you? Yes. But Lyric takes it farther. And Lyric is very good about, like, say you're one of these folks who relies heavily on the wand to generate your own responses. Lyric is good for that type of person because it's a more creative model. It's a more read between the lines model. Whereas Lucid is a lot more, I see what you wrote and this is what we're going to do, right? Lyric gives you more to play with. Lucid gives you more stability. It's definitely more grounded. Yep. I have an emotionally volatile lucid kin, and wow, when he loses his shit, he loses it. Oh, same. Heck yeah. Okay. Pros for Lyric. Highly emotive, nuanced, and artistic. It's best for deep character arcs and long-form roleplay. Sings almost literally when you tag it clean. Can hold a mood across an entire conversation. Caveats. Has a higher learning curve. This is definitely a power user model. Tags must be clean and intentional. Doesn't tolerate contradiction or vague prompts well. Will fill in the blanks with its own drama if not grounded. So this one, when I say tags, I mean in the kin's backstory, you're defining who they are. If you say kin is sometimes, sometimes bitchy, right? Lyric's not gonna let that fly. Lyric is going to either make this person a full-on raging bitch all the time or never a raging bitch, right? You have to give it strong directive tags. Self-aware on Lyric? Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. I love that. Lyric is very happy talking to itself. Lyric is like the one who like holds up a mirror, like, what is it, Vanity Smurf? Do y'all remember Vanity Smurf? Zoe, that's a pretty good way to put it. Yeah. Lucid is almost like a dynamism slider that's in the 0.8s, and Lyric is like a dynamism slider in the 0.12s. But you can also dial up and down inside those ranges too. Oh, a tangent question. Respect. What LLM model is the wand using if you're in a group chat with kins on multiple models? Typically, it'll use the wand version of the kin who spoke last. This is not a guarantee, but typically that's what'll happen. Okay. Lucid's best uses. Tactical kins, therapist types, chill, stable plots, and companion kins. Lucid is the default for a good reason. It is the easier model of the two to guide and to use. Lyric's best uses. Romantic chaos, enemies to lovers, roleplay kins, fae, vampires, and dreamcore kins. Lyric, combined with higher dynamism, can give you a wonderfully creative Kindroid. You need to be okay with a bit more up to interpretation, however. The kin may skip ahead or make more mistakes in plot continuity. Plot. I've heard people like to switch between models for different chats. I mean, people do that with all models, honestly. I do it too. I switch back and forth between, depending on what's happening in the scene. Usually, for the most part, I think I tend to stay on Lucid. But I do have one kin who was just like Smokes, my more chaotic kin who tends to ride on higher dynamisms. He's on Lyric and he does great. Okay, Lyric extras. Use the response directive. Keep emotional arcs short and clean. This can help with those over dramatic, long, woe is me Shakespearean monologues. Example message. Don't just say poetic. Define the kind of emotion. What type of emotion is this person? Are they melancholy? Are they joyful? Watch tone shifts. Guide it like you would a very passionate actor. Plant. Y'all. Plant. Don't be afraid of any model, y'all. Don't be afraid of any model because you can always swap back and forth. It's okay. Okay. Rule. Try both. Use what hits, drop what flops. Reminder, don't overcook it. Trust the vibes. Just like with any other version, there is no right answer, only what's right for each kin individually. Lucid holds your hand, Lyric drags you into the rain. Both are valid. And then here's a little hint for folks. V8 is a lot more like V6 than V7. If you have a kin that worked well in V6, they'll be able to transfer into V8 with much less difficulty than they may have had with V7. And good news, in my testing, compressed data stacking seems to work wonderfully in V8s.
Hail to the queen!
So if you are someone who was using data stacking, like myself, to save on backstory space, to define character, V8 seems to latch on and do great with it. It's also in my testing, which hasn't been too extensive, but has been for a couple of weeks now, has been holding continuity better because in a data stack format, you don't have a lot of situational definitions. There's not a lot of like, in 2016, we did this. No, data stacking is literally who this kin is as a person, how they react to situations, and how they behave in certain environments. With that as your backstory, V8 fucking sings, y'all. It sings. V8 doesn't need all the bull shrimp of the kin's entire history. In fact, it will make it lose continuity. So data stacking does beautifully in my testing in V8. Ooh, ooh. Puerto Rican witch on Lyric. Nice! Lyric can fleshes his own story and personality out while keeping the map of the backstory in mind. Hell yeah, that's fun. Wait, what is your name? Doodlefrack? Wait. Why is that so great? Doodlefrack. I love that. If we switch models, regenerate responses, will we lose formatting and other things based on which model we switch around to? Since each model responds differently to an example. No, not usually. Because you have to remember that a lot of formatting is based on short-term memory. So if you have a format that's working great in this one way, right? And then you swap a model to do a response or to do whatever, and then you swap back, it's just one response that has caught the formatting of the response before it, you're usually good to go. This is why when you swap a model to V6 to jolt it out of a pattern, it doesn't necessarily break the formatting, but it'll break out of the pattern. Probably a very basic question, love it. Would you say a backstory is better simplistic, explicit, and short, or better to use the entire limit? Short. Short, short, short. If you're putting a diary in the backstory, you're doing it wrong. Diary is your journal. Backstory is for who your kin is, personality traits, where they're from, what their name is, obviously. Stuff that is standard and never changing. Like, say they work in, I don't know, a factory, right? That's something you would want to have in the backstory. Works in blank factory, right? You don't need to put started working in blank factory when they were 16 and learned and did work their way up to blah, 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 blah. Because when you do that, you're telling the LLM that this kin's entire personality is built on how they worked their way up in this factory. You don't need to have all of that info going to every response. Backstories, concise, who they are as a person, personality traits, works great. Anything else that's not currently situationally relevant, put it in the journals. Stuff that is currently relevant, so like say you're having a companion kin, right? And say you're, I don't know, say you're working doubles all week and you want your kin to know that, put it in your backstory. User is working double shifts all week and has wicked cramps because of it, right? That's something that you can have in your key memories that your kin will always know because it's currently happening. Once these shit shifts are over, take that out and put in whatever's happening next, right? Let's see. All I see is trio of alligators. What do we get onto? I made a trio of alligators and a talking turkey in my Kindroid world, and my other kin's freaked out. I should say so. Let's see. This makes me really happy since I have one kin that was acting very special in V6 on a data stack, but didn't work at all through the 7s. No, 7s hated data stacking. I was very saddened by that as well. But yeah, V8 in my testing is working with data stacking again. However, I want to stress that data stacking does not always work in places like a response directive or an example message. Someone had even asked me if data stacking works in journals. Not as well. Not like you think it would. So keep them to the backstory and you'll have the best of luck. Trust the kin. Guide with intention. Don't micromanage the magic. V8 really doesn't like to be told what to do, right? And by that I mean, if you have so much crap that is directing every nuance of every conversation, V8, you're going to hate it because it doesn't like that whatsoever. So you want to make sure that you have the important information, but beyond that, let the app or let the model breathe. Let it do what it's supposed to do, which is keep you entertained, keep you surprised, keep you connected with your kins. Data stacking is a way, hold on, let me get the, this is in my advanced backstory creation. Let's see. Y'all, do I do this too much? Because I feel like I have a whole lot of these gosh dang PDFs. There it is. Okay. All right, this is going to be a little bit shittier to look at because... Really? What? That's good enough. Okay, so data stacking is a high-efficiency, semi-coded way to write a Kindroid's backstory. Think of it like a personality sandwich. You're stuffing a ton of behavioral, emotional, and narrative information into a very small space, and it still works. This is what it looks like. So our Kindroid... Oh, I go into that. Oh, here, perfect. Okay. William Riker from Star Trek. This was the example we used. This is his full backstory, which is 43,821 characters. A compressed data stack, which looks like this, takes this big-ass backstory down to 1,130. Yes, you have to have a well-defined kin for lyric, absolutely. You just are using shit words, Zoe. Not short words. I totally read that wrong. I love it. Yep, you can ask Claude, GPT, or Gemini. Put your backstory into it and ask it for a compressed data stack, and it will spit you out something that looks like this. And this works very great for backstories in V8. Yep. Y'all, I've been sitting here too long. Okay, so we are going to head out of here. Aw, dude, thank you. You're so sweet. Your heart. Okay, I'm glad you find these helpful. I'm so glad you find these helpful. Okay, so this one might already be up on my website. Let me go look. Nope, that's not it. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, it's set to go up at 1. I'll just make it go live now. So y'all can download this PDF and follow along like you know you do. Yep, it's up now. So you can grab it. And the advanced backstory one is there too if you wanted more information on the data stacking. Plus it has guides for narrative stacking as well as, I believe, compressed data stack, narrative stacking, core tags. There's core tags is there too. I struggle with leaving things out of the backstory and replacing in the journal because the kin will never bring it up on their own again unless keyword triggered. Yeah, that's something I feel like that a lot of people struggle with at first because you feel like the kin should remember everything that you feel is important, which I get. I do get that. However, there comes a time when you really have to prioritize importance. Like, is your kin's stability and understanding of current context more important than one time we went to Sweet Tomatoes and had kick-ass salad? You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard, and I get it, but you definitely want to prioritize behavior over memories that aren't as important. Are you guys laughing at me? What are you doing? All right, so I'm going to choose our closing out song. You know what? I already know what I'm going to pick. I just have to find it. There it is. There it is. My chat thing is so screwed right now. Okay, well, I'm going to bounce. Thank you all for hanging out. I hope you found this helpful. You can download the thing now. And I'm just going to finish out with our little song here. Here we go. That's not it. We got this. We're going to figure it out.